Hi, I'm Dr. Sam Charles. For 30 years, I have been practicing functional medicine and gentle chiropractic. You deserve to feel good and to have an active lifestyle, so why not call Elkton Chiropractic Neurology today?
Good evening and welcome back to 30 at 6 on Cecil TV. Tonight we have another installment of Dialogue with Leadership with County Executive Alan McCarthy. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you very much for the invitation to come.
How are you?
I'm doing wonderful.
Great. So last week the council voted to turn the Firefighters Volunteer Length of Service Award Program, or VLOSAP, into a trust fund, but with amendments to limit the county executive's authority to change the trust agreement. Specifically, the amendments require council approval of any proposed changes. County Attorney Jason Allison believes that the amendment equates to legislative overreach and violates the charter's non-interference provision. While the council's position is that since the trust is established through legislation, it is well within its bounds to amend it. I think we should backtrack a little bit and ask you, what was the benefit of turning the VLOSAP program into a trust fund to begin with?
The VLOSAP funding has been around for many, many years, probably well in excess of 20. It has certain specifications that basically, upon completion of certain numbers of years and time of service, they receive a pension. This pension had basically been in a pay-go situation, meaning that every year the administration determined how much money needed to be paid to the volunteer fire company, and I did not think that was an appropriate system. I wanted to turn it into a permanent pension system. That's why this legislation was passed.
Okay.
I brought that forward last year and it was passed. This year we're basically turning that thing into a trust fund so that it'll basically have the ability to generate money, and the monies will be invested in a pension according to the plans created by the fund trustees, given to a manager who then manages the money.
Okay, all in the interest of making
Yes.
a more sustainable
And then what we'll
fund.
do is every year I'll appropriate a certain amount of dollars to put into this trust to be available in the future to pay their pension benefits.
Okay. Why might the council want authority over this, or additional authority over it?
I'm not absolutely certain why they do.
Okay.
I mean, they have authority. They're the ones who basically approve the funding for it. I mean, I can propose it, but they approve it. So they have lots of authority already.
Okay.
But they decided they wanted some more. So there we
We'll
go.
We'll see what happens. And what reasons might there be to not want the council to be able to sign off on changes to the trust agreement?
I personally feel that if it's in the hands of the administration, it can be dealt with more effectively. Better, I don't know, but more effectively, I do believe.
Okay.
And then they have plenty of safeguards in what we're doing, is because everything that they really do has to be approved by them.
Right.
For example, the trustees want to change something, it has to be 3/4 of the trustees would come to me and ask me to change. Now, if I chose to change it, I could. If I chose not to change it, I wouldn't have to. So that's essentially where we're at.
Okay. So between now and this Friday, I believe you will have to
I think
decide.
it's the 13th. I think we have 10 days. They presented the legislation to me. I think it was maybe Wednesday or Thursday.
So
I have 10 days.
Right. You have 10 days to
Yes.
decide whether you're going to veto their vote, and if you don't, it will go into law
That is correct.
June 17th. On a more optimistic note, our FY20 budget was passed by a 4-1 vote with no changes. Contention around the VLOSAP issue aside, what do you think this says about your administration's relationship with this council?
I think that I have an excellent relationship with the council. I get along with all the members. I mean, what my goals and what my desires and what my policies have been consistent. Number one, it's to basically have a balanced budget, which we've done for 3 consecutive years. This budget does not use unassigned fund balance. We've certainly seen great economic growth. It's been at some cost because a lot of these things are in enterprise zone. We basically have put in infrastructure, which I promised to do. We basically are doing everything to increase all the issues which are involved with quality of life, libraries, recreational facilities, so forth and so on. And I've done everything I can to support the fire companies, the emergency services, and the police department, including collective bargaining for the detention center officers.
This year you proposed the creation of the Budget Stabilization Fund, which could be used as a one-time funding source for unusual needs, critical capital or operating needs. Can you give an example of a use for that fund?
Well, let me just detail how the entire fund works.
Sure.
Previously, we had a rainy or unassigned fund balance, and that basically was 7% of the entire budget. What we did is we changed the legislation this year, so we now have a 10% emergency budget fund. Now, the emergency budget is to take care of truly emergencies. The emergencies could be caused by
Weather.
a revenue shortfall, a significant revenue shortfall, basically a hurricane, a snowstorm, something of great magnitude. That emergency fund is now 10% of what the operating budget is. In this case, it's about $19 million because the entire operating budget is about $190 million. So we put that aside. In order to use that, I would have to propose to the council that we have an emergency and we need the money. Then the council would vote and basically either agree with me or not agree with me. And in case that they did, we could basically take money from the emergency fund to deal with an emergency.
Right.
The thing that's good about that is, let's say that you had a bad executive. The bad executive under the previous legislation could basically spend the money at his own discretion or her discretion, whatever the case should be. But this time it has to be approved by the council. So I think that's a good safeguard for the citizens of Cecil County as well as the government. The budget stabilization fund is 1% of the operating budget, and that is a budget that I can use at my own discretion to basically take care of small, short problems. For example, revenue shortfalls come in, I can use that to balance the books, pay bills.
I think, wasn't the animal services situation with
Yes,
the
that
feral
required, exactly.
Right.
What happened there is we ended up with far more cats than what we anticipated having. It cost more money to take care of them. That facility was put in place because the people did not want to kill shelter any longer. So we had to pay those bills, and we took it from the Emergency Stabilization Fund.
And how do these two funds in tandem support your goal for the county living within its means?
Well, what they do is they basically, they're certainly appreciated by the bond rating companies because we have $240-some million in bonds. Bonds are used to basically build new schools, new libraries, roads, bridges, things of that nature. So when the bond rating agencies see that we have substantial reserves, they give us a better bond rating, which means we pay less on interest to borrow the money to build these different things we need to build. That's the major reason.
Cool. Is there anything else, any other updates you'd like to give?
No. Just we can just talk about the budget. I mean, the lion's share of the budget goes to the Board of Education. Our three primary things would be the Board of Education, Cecil College, and the library. Those are basically component parts of our government. Those three take up 54% of the budget. Over 30% is taken up by emergency services and the police department. And what's in the counties, what's in my domain is a very small amount of money. We have a Department of Public Works, which basically takes up more than half of the administration's budget. But we are doing very, very well, in my opinion. We've brought in more money. Now people say, well, we had a lot of excess, but keep in mind, we've had to take this money to replace the unassigned fund balance, which had been depleted in the previous 4 years. These budgets that I've passed recently that are balanced are the first balanced budgets that Cecil County has seen in over 2 decades.
Right. Yeah, it's great news.
So we're very solvent. If you look at our tax rates, there was no tax increases this year. Baltimore County had to increase their taxes. Hartford County did the same thing. And Arundel County and Howard County, I suspect, will do the same thing too. We basically have made a turn, and we're doing very, very well, in my opinion. And I intend to keep it that way.
And it seems like the public, from the turnout at the various park grand openings and the library groundbreaking, it seems like the public is very excited about some of these new budget.
Yeah, I would have to say so. This past weekend, I mean, the Calvert Regional Park looked like an anthill. It was nothing but cars and people all over it. The Brantwood opening, I've never seen more people attend an opening prior to the library in my entire life in Cecil County. These are creature comforts. These are quality of life issues, which I think people truly enjoy and appreciate. And one of the things about this is once we build this infrastructure, all of the money that's being put in these places is a capital expense for development. But once it's done, it's essentially done. All we have to do is maintain it. So those things will be relatively done relatively soon, and we can take those revenues that we've been putting towards these projects and invest them in other things.
Okay. Any other updates?
No, I can't. Well, we have other good things going on, but I can't discuss those right now.
All right. Well, next
But
time.
I will basically, they'll be forthcoming in due time.
Okay. We can't wait.
Okay?
Thanks for having us.
Well,
Thanks for being here.
Well, thank you. I've had a good time. This is a wonderful event.